So we all know that the Kentucky Oaks is usually the first Friday in May, but most of you don't know that the first running of the Kentucky Oaks was actually 2 days after the Kentucky Derby. Why was that? Let's find out. Welcome to this episode of Talking Racehorses. I'm the Horse Reactor, and actually what I said in the intro was actually true. That was not a joke at all. So, anyways, I actually had to look up why was the actual reason that the Kentucky Oaks was run a couple of days after. Well, actually, the first Kentucky Oaks was run a couple of days after the first Kentucky Derby. And it was been in my head for a while, so then I was like, I must discuss this in an episode. So here it is. And anyways, I had to look up, like I said, I had to look up why, because I actually wanted to know the reason myself. So the reason is the first Kentucky Oaks was run on May 19th, 1875, 2 days after the first Kentucky Derby, because founder Meriwether Lewis Clark Jr. modeled it after England's Epsom Oaks, to complement his new Derby, establishing it as a premier race for 3-year-old fillies. That's Fillies, just to make sure. It was designed as a part of high society spring racing weekend, at what became Churchill Downs. So the inventor, Meriwether Lewis Clark Jr., grandson of William Clark of the Lewis Clark Expedition, founded the Kentucky Oaks alongside the Kentucky Derby to mimic the Epsom Down races in England. Created as a sister to the Kentucky Derby, specifically for 3-year-old fillies. The first Kentucky Derby, as we all know, was run on May 17th, 1875, and the first Kentucky Oaks was followed on May 19th, 1875. The first winner of the Oaks was a horse named Vinaigrette. The race has been run at Churchill Downs since its inception, eventually moving to the first Friday before the Kentucky Derby, as it currently is, which makes a lot more sense. So, anyways, another thing that I wanted to know is why? Because, back then, before these two races were inaugurated or even created, we didn't have the Triple Crown. Well, actually, we didn't have the first leg of the Triple Crown or the Triple... Actually, no, I don't think the Kentucky Oaks counts as the Triple Tiara for the fillies. But at least now we know why it was run. A couple of days after. So, yeah. Well, these days it's better off as the first Friday in May for the Kentucky Oaks and the first Saturday in May for the Kentucky Derby. Except in 2020, because when COVID-19 hit, then both races were moved to the first weekend in September. And now it's back now those races are back in their rightful places. The first Friday and Saturday in May. So, anyways, we all know that both races are going to be 152 this year, and we also know that Good Cheer is the latest winner of the Kentucky Oaks, because she won last year as a 3-year-old. Well, 3-year-old filly. And also, the race was not run on a dirt surface. It was run on a muddy track. So, most likely with the Torpedo Anna in 2024. And also, at least now we actually have a reason why the Kentucky Oaks was run 2 days after the Kentucky Derby. But to be honest, it's kind of better this way that it's run the day before. And also, the Kentucky Oaks' signature, the Kentucky Oaks' signature flower is the lilies. That's why it's also called the Run for the Lilies. And also, everybody knows that, but most people might not, so I just wanted to get that out now. Anyways, good luck to whoever is going to be in this this year's Kentucky Oaks, because at the time of this recording, I don't know who's in it. The field is going to be drawn. The field is already posted, but, whenever this video comes out. But anyways, good luck to everybody who's running in it. Anyways, that's a wrap on this episode of Talking Racehorses. Bye.